Hey, what's up guys? My name is Sal, and this is another expedition log. On today's episode, we're going to visit a mall that I've been to many times, and that I even took you on a walkthrough in the pilot episode of the expedition log series. In the pilot, we visited Seoul Plaza, which is one of the most fascinating spaces I've ever visited, but I didn't pay too much attention to the actual mall that it was attached to. So today we're going to focus on the Security Square Mall in Woodlawn, Maryland. This mall was developed by one of my favorite mall developers, Eddie DeBartolo, and I'm sure he'd be pretty disappointed with the shape the mall is in today. Mr. DeBartolo actually developed my childhood mall in Ocean County, New Jersey, so his work is pretty close to my heart, and I wanted to pay homage by visiting this mall and doing it justice. So come take a walk with me in the Security Square Mall in Woodlawn, Maryland. But first, a word from our sponsor, those ladies that drugged Colonel Sanders in an attempt to get the secret recipe for KFC's fried chicken.
I say, let's muzzle them.
Let the lie detector do
We
it.
want your secret recipe for the Kentucky Fried Chicken. We want it now.
You're going to tell us now?
Why, it's my pleasure, lady.
Go ahead, tell us.
First, we take some eggs, and some milk, and
Yes, Colonel.
flour, and savory,
And?
and then we have 4 ounces.
4 ounces of what?
4 ounces of
Ooh.
4 ounces of grandfather's overcoat.
Give up, girls. How to blend 11 herbs and spices that make Kentucky Fried Chicken so finger-licking good. That's the Colonel's secret. Forever.
Now, Colonel, let's try it again. And this time the truth.
Finally, I had 3 shoelaces and a hubcap.
In 1969, absolute rock star of the mall development circle, Edward J. DeBartolo, this guy right here, total mafioso. He began negotiations to purchase 76 acres of land at the intersection of the Baltimore Beltway and Security Boulevard. The terms were solidified with attorney, investor, and philanthropist Zanvile Krieger for DeBartolo to pay roughly $39,000 per acre, totaling nearly $3 million. DeBartolo was ecstatic when the deal went through, and in 1970, preliminary work began on a brand new shopping center project by the DeBartolo Company, which they intended to be Baltimore's largest mall. Their first hurdle was the state, who requested that the developers pay $150,000 of the $405,000 needed to expand Security Boulevard by half a mile, or else they couldn't build the mall. Of course, they obliged, and the half a mile of road was completed swiftly. Shortly thereafter, construction began on the shopping mall across the street from the Social Security Administration building. The mall was to be built in the patriotically apropos shape of an American bald eagle. At a cost estimated between $13 and $18 million, the 800,000 square foot Security Square Mall was formally dedicated on Friday, September 30th, 1972. 3 anchors were planned to open at the mall. However, at dedication, only Hochschild Kern was ready. On opening day, only 14 stores opened. Among the tenants were a bank, a bookstore, snack bar and health food store, clothing stores, and a jeweler. David Zook, who was the mall's first general manager, said, quote, "We could have waited, but these stores are ready to go, and they wanted to open. Others will open rapidly between now and February, including a twin cinema in the next 3 weeks." The other 77 stores opened by February of the next year, along with the 2 remaining senior anchors, Sears Roebuck & Company and Baltimore's very first JCPenney. The junior anchors were Woolworth's, Reed's Drugs, and Robert Hall.
It's a big week for Stouffer's with a big 25% off every single item from lean cuisine for the calorie conscious to your favorite Stouffer's frozen entree and tasty side dishes. If it's Stouffer's, it's 25% off. And at just 89 cents a pint, our red ripe strawberries are going wild.
The mall was received with incredible success, and in July of '78, work began on a 200,000 square foot expansion to bring Hecht's in as the 4th anchor. The work was completed in fall of '79, augmenting the mall to over 1 million square feet, thereby making it the largest enclosed mall in the greater Baltimore area. On February 2, 1983, the mall was sold to JMB Realty for an undisclosed figure, but my guess is that it wasn't cheap, and it was probably more than $50 million. The same year, JMB bought 4 properties from Federated Department Stores in a deal for $128.3 million, and they put up $112.2 million in cash. They only assumed a $16.1 million mortgage, so they had cash in the bank, and they were ready to spend it. Right now we're actually in the space that was once occupied by Hochschild and then Hutzler's. Hochschild was absorbed by Hutzler's in November of 1984, and the Security Square store was rebranded, repainted, and renewed with a fresh sense of urgency to bring shoppers to the brand new Hutzler's. In 1988, JMB announced a $10 million remodeling project, which would occur over 2 phases. Phase 1 included interior renovations and new design elements, new floors, ceilings, and additional skylights. They also introduced a new front entrance and canopy between the Sears and Hecht's buildings, and a bright new center court featuring a 60-foot wide skylight. Directly ahead of us right now is the brand new center court, and as you'll see, the skylight is huge, but it's actually pretty bad disrepair. There's a few broken windows, and they've tinted it, but the tint's kind of scraping off, and the place is just pretty gross. We'll actually get one more look at the skylight a bit later in the episode, but when I was here filming, I was with my buddy Fritz, and Fritz is a bald man. So we went to Baltimore Beauty, which sells wigs. Now, as somebody who doesn't wear wigs, I don't really know the ins and the outs of wig culture. So I didn't know if you could just grab one off the mannequins that are on display, and I was telling him, hey, try that one on, try that one on. But he was hesitant because he's a bald man and he knows that you can't just do that. So we saw this vanity and I pulled the chair out for him, he got comfortable, and I requested the attention of the shop attendant, and we asked her if he could try some wigs on. And she seemed really apprehensive at first. And then she explained the policy where it costs $1 to try 3 wigs on. So I said no problem, put $1 on the table. And then he started asking if he could try some on, and immediately she said, no, you can't try them on, sorry. So I asked for the manager, and the manager said, no, you can't try them on, sorry. So I tried giving her $2, because hey, why not try to bribe them? But still, she said no. Which was disappointing. His head must have been cold without that hat. Phase 2 introduced a food court to the mall, where the cinema once stood, relocating the theater to an outparcel between JCPenney and Hutzler's. Hutzler's shuttered at the mall in 1989, and the entire company was liquidated and defunct by 1990. On August 9th, 1991, Montgomery Ward assumed occupancy of the former Hutzler's space. 3 years later, in 1994, JMB announced their intent to sell the mall at an asking price of $78.5 million. The Security Square Mall was their last retail holding in Baltimore after they sold their stake in the White Marsh and Owings Mills malls to the Rouse Company. It took 3 years for the mall to sell, and the buyer was Capital Investment Associates, who immediately invested $2 million in renovations, including some super sweet neon, the installation of a video surveillance system, and the relocation of mall security to the center court. I'm guessing that they really wanted the Security Square Mall to live up to its name, and to be really secure. 1 year after the turn of the millennium, in 2001, the mall saw the loss of 2 senior tenants when both Montgomery Ward and JCPenney shuttered, dealing an incredibly heavy blow to the mall's reputation. The Ward space was repurposed into a multi-tenant structure, including Modell's Sports, a teppanyaki restaurant, the North American Trade School, and USA Discounters. All of those tenants didn't come in at once, but over the years they began to occupy the space. Perhaps taking a cue from what happened with the old Ward space, in 2003, Sam and Steve Choi purchased the old JCPenney space for $2.2 million, and they brought their own idea of what a multi-tenant structure would look like. They brought the unique Seoul Plaza to Security Square. This fresh take on an anchor space introduced the mall within a mall idea, focusing on various international markets and small shops, all of which would celebrate Korean culture. Seoul Plaza had its own mini anchors, which were the Grand Mart grocery store and the Seoul Spa Korean bathhouse. I purposefully didn't give much of a view of Seoul Plaza in this video because I did want to honor Security Square. If you're curious and you haven't seen it already, you can check out episodes 1, 7, and 22 of the Expedition Log series for a full account of Seoul Plaza, including the Seoul Plaza in Annandale and an insider look at the Seoul Spa within Seoul Plaza.
With men or boys in your home, chances are the bathroom needs cleaning almost every day. You need new, fresh-smelling Lysol bathroom touch-ups. Just wet one under the tap and wipe. In one step, you've cleaned, disinfected, and deodorized. Lysol bathroom touch-ups are also great for sinks, counters, tubs, anywhere germs or odors hide. Then just flush away. So, for quick, in-between cleanings, you need new Lysol bathroom touch-ups.
In 2006, Hecht's was absorbed by Macy's, and the anchor rebranded. I've always loved the look of the outside of the Macy's, or the former Hecht's, and my curiosity was always piqued because it looks like it should be 3 floors. So I decided to go in and actually see for myself once and for all to see if it actually had 3 floors. Now, I have family members who worked for Macy's, and whenever they would tell me about the Security Square location, they would always complain that it smelled and that it was run down. And I've actually never been inside of the Macy's up until this day. The floors are absolutely disgusting. They were moldy. The entire place just reeked of mold, and it was damp. It was just pretty gross. I was mainly curious what those windows were in the front of the Macy's, because it didn't look like you can see through them. So I wanted to kind of hunt around the store and see if I could find a place where those windows were. And then I found this door that was open back here. But when I went inside, I didn't see any windows. It just looked like a big storage cabinet for mannequins and broken glass. Check this out. My first thought about this back room was, how could management just leave the door open like that? Because it doesn't look like they're taking anything in and out of there on a regular basis. But the longer I stayed in there, and because of what I had seen earlier in that Macy's, I wasn't really that surprised. This back storage room isn't just a graveyard for all of the Macy's fixtures. This back room is foreshadowing the actual fate of Security Square. All of the dirty laundry is being hidden in the back room. And mall management wants you to think that this place is doing well, when in fact it's just a band-aid. And I think that can be said for a lot of malls out there right now. Sam and Steve Choi sold their Seoul Plaza space for $13.5 million in 2010. The new owners failed to bring in business and sold it at a loss in 2013 for only $3 million. On March 5th, 2017, at a local community meeting in Baltimore, Howard S. Brown pitched the idea to revitalize Security Square into an urban town center similar to the thriving Metro Center at Owings Mills, which he developed. Despite having a huge investor lined up, the plan hasn't come to fruition, or at least not yet. The Security Square Mall has lived a pretty long life so far, and it's always been fairly well occupied. Despite losing some major tenants over the years, it's still been able to fill its doors with a lot of shoppers. Now, as I've said in previous episodes, I think this is mainly due to the fact that the bus comes right through the parking lot, and it's pretty easy for somebody to get to. But it sounds like the community is also pretty anxious to redevelop this into a more modern space. So what the future holds for Security Square, I don't know. But I am anxious to see what happens. I'd like to thank all of you for watching this episode of the Expedition Log series. It's my absolute joy to bring these episodes to you, and I have so much fun going out on expeditions and producing these videos, so thank you so much. While this is still part of my 5,000 subscriber special, I don't want to diminish my excitement for having just reached 6,771 subscribers. You guys keep blowing my mind every day with the engagement on the channel, and I promise it's not going to stop. I'd like to thank my patrons for directly supporting the expedition, so thank you guys from the bottom of my heart, and thank you all so much. I'd also like to thank everybody on the Discord server, because you guys rock. And if you're interested in joining the Discord server, there's going to be a link in the description below. You just have to download the app on your phone or your desktop, click the link, and you're in. And if you'd like to follow the expedition live, you can see pictures posted to Instagram, and I give live updates pretty regularly through Twitter. So thanks again everybody for watching and supporting the channel, and I hope to see you on the next Expedition Log. Take care everybody.